Tell me, though, what's his technique? That last strike, it seems invincible.
Hello, and welcome to Sons of the Dragon, the Immortal Iron Fist podcast. My name is Connor, and again, I'm joined by... you can introduce yourself, I guess.
Hello, my name is Emma. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah. So you were here last time for, I think, issue 2 of the new mini-series, which was about a month ago.
Yeah.
I think the new one was supposed to be out this week, but it got pushed back or something.
Yeah, I think that the supply chain things, everything is getting pushed back at least once.
Right.
So yeah, I think it was supposed to be the 11th, and now it's the 18th.
Yeah. So, I guess, I don't know, I have no idea who will be here yet. I will say Carl's out for a little bit, just doing family stuff. So, send your prayers and thoughts over there. Because I don't know when he'll be back. So, hopefully soon. Hopefully everything goes well. And thanks to our patrons as well. Ray and Derek. Thanks so much, guys. You guys are awesome. You get to listen to more complaining and stuff like that. So, fun times. But, yeah, so I was looking for something to talk about. I mean, we have things that we're doing, but no one else can make it, so I was like, don't want to do that stuff. So Emma, you came up with a nice topic. So we're going to be talking about Immortal Iron Fist 7 with the Wu Ao-Shi story. And we're also just going to talk a bit about, the idea of Iron Fists leaving. And that's hardly unique to Danny. And this was your idea, Emma. So, thank you. It's a good talking point. And we're gonna come across all sorts of continuity problems when we go into this. So,
yeah, that should be fun. I'm excited to talk about that.
Yeah. Well, let's get right into it then. So,
right.
I reread Immortal Iron Fist 7. For this, and I've never been a big fan of the Pirate Queen Iron Fist.
Oh, interesting.
Because, I don't know, just because, like, it's her story is just like a love story, and I'm just not super into that.
Yeah, I agree, actually. I'm not super into love stories either. I think I find her interesting, for kind of in spite of that, and also in the way that the love story is treated, where it's a little bit of a comedy. There's a lot of subversion of kind of classic romantic kind of elements. I enjoy the fact, I mean, in superhero comics where you have frequently women who are civilians who are dating superhero men and, sitting at home worrying. It's always fun to have that kind of gender reversal that we get in this, where her husband is the big conflict is that he's sitting at home worried for her. So I appreciate that. And I think, I mean, I think the elements of her story that are she's just out there kicking butt and being a badass, I think is always really fun.
Yeah.
I think in spite of the romance, as I said, I really enjoy her.
I think, she has a very striking visual design.
Yeah.
And the whole, putting your chi into the bow thing.
I love that. Yeah.
I think that's, I'm just gonna go out on a limb here and go say that's what draw people to her, maybe as opposed to her story.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really cool kind of signature move.
Yeah.
And obviously it's really cool that it then gets adopted by Orson later. And it's something that we'll also see Danny do occasionally. And yeah, visually it's a really cool aspect of the power set. So yeah, definitely. I think that's a big part of what makes her memorable.
Yeah, because she's one of the most memorable Iron Fists. Like, I think there's a variant cover coming up for the next, I think issue 4 maybe, of the new series.
Yeah.
And it's actually a really cool cover. I'm trying to find it now, because like a bunch of people post it on Twitter, but of course I can't find it when I want to. But it has the new Iron Fist, down the bottom. Already forgot his name. Lin.
Lin, yeah.
Yeah. But like in the background, it has the previous Iron Fists, and I'm happy to see Danny is the biggest one there. But it also has Danny, Orson Randall, Wu Ao-Shi, and the tiger guy, I think.
Oh yeah, Bei Bang Wen.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, and like it's they're all like visually striking.
Yeah.
In their own way, which is nice. But
yeah, I love that.
I'll read out the credits for this issue, because we're going to go through it kind of like our other issues. But so we have Ed Brubaker and Matt Fraction as the writers, Travel Foreman as the artist on pages 1 to 6, Derek Friedholz as the inker in pages 1 to 6, Leandro Fernandez as the artist 7 to 13, Franco Peranzini and Leo Fernandez as inkers 7 to 13, Carrie Evans as the artist 14 to 22, and Victor Olazaba is inker 14 to 22, Dan Brown is the colorist, Dave Perez letter. They didn't make that easy for me.
No,
you have like 12 people on this issue.
Yeah, that's I wonder why. That's interesting.
But her story, I mean, I like these solo Iron Fist stories because
me too.
They're just like little movies, and but yeah, this one, I don't know, the others I liked more, but this is still good. Like, the artwork's really good, the writing's good, it's just the content is like, I don't really care. I don't feel for either of these people. Like, the fisherman seems dumb. Like, he's like an idiot, and he just leaves and she looks for him, and she's, like, I think it's cool how she sort of becomes like a lord at the end, and, sort of looking after her people. And it says so I'll go through it briefly. Okay. So she starts off as like this delinquent stealing food in Kun Lun. And Lei Kung notices her, rest in pepperoni, and he takes her in and trains her
which I think, and I wanted to mention that a little bit because, Lei Kung is one of my favorite characters, and something that is really interesting that is kind of introduced here is the idea that he can't really resist a spunky orphan. Like, this is this is something that he does, that we later see with Sparrow, where he, particularly women, the fact that he will kind of go, hey, I'll take you in and train you because I think you're neat, which is an interesting aspect of his character. It's kind of cool to have that here.
So, because Sparrow changed in between. Living Weapon. So in the current, is she actually his daughter or adopted? Because I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure she's adopted because she was at least as set up in Immortal Iron Fist, and then kind of implied in Living Weapons that she was kind of in the servant class. She didn't have a name, and obviously that wouldn't be true if she was his daughter, I would think.
Yeah, so. It could also be because she was a woman, like, regardless if she's his daughter, but...
Possibly, but, if we look at... we don't have a ton of other women to compare to, but if we look at, say, Miranda, obviously she did have a name, so it seems to be a class thing as opposed to a gender thing.
I will say I like Wu Ao-Shi a lot more than Cavewoman Iron Fist. Thanks, Jason Aaron, for just, like, messing up continuity again with that one forgettable issue, you idiot. So, yeah, he takes her in, they train. Again, it's really great artwork. Then this guy comes up and gives her a fish because she's just eating rice, and they fall in love, get engaged or whatever because he cuts open a fish and these two rings fall out, which is a story for another time. Thanks, J.J. Abrams. And yeah, and the UT is a jerk as always.
Uh-huh.
And we get the dragon challenge. And
we get that funny bit where she can't have the brand on her chest, so they kind of just hand wave that logically she blocks it with her leg.
Yeah, it's kind of like
funny.
Like I guess she intentionally does it, but a way that I don't know. It looks like she's setting up for a kick, and the dragon falls on her. But
yeah, it kind of does.
It's cool. I like when they're in different spots, and I hate when they forget.
Yeah.
Like possibly the new guy. It's like you have to that needs to be turned on.
Right. Yeah, it can't just show up.
And I'll always point out that kid's head having the brand on his face. Like.
Yeah. the most hardcore Iron Fist. He did it with his head.
Yeah, when he was like 10. I want to see that fight.
Yeah.
So it's cool though. I mean, the issue's really good. Like again, when we do cover Immortal Iron Fist, we'll go over it again as well. But I like how Xiaoliao's drawn. Xiaoliao seems to get bigger, like a lot. And it's just this artwork's really, really good by the various artists. And we're actually like she has some personality. She's not just like, I'm serious warrior woman.
Yeah, that's another thing I like about this issue is the humor, both in her and I think something I really like is that there's a lot of humor in the narration, or generally because this is presented as being what's actually written in the Book of the Iron Fist, and a lot of times when you have these ancient tomes filled with secret knowledge, there's a certain writing style that's expected, and they kind of play with that by having an elevated writing style in some aspects, and then having these funny little snippets. Like there's a funny one about the fisherman. He was a fisherman and not much of a thinker.
Yeah.
So I like the humor in this issue as well.
Yeah. She's telling about how she's like, hiya,
Yeah.
Oh, that was cute.
I love that.
And she charges their rings with like her chi, so whenever they're close, it'll glow. And then the fisherman leaves that night because he's like, oh, I'm just a fisherman and I don't want to worry about her. And it's like, well, I mean, let's look at this, right? So he leaves.
Yeah.
And she very possibly gets into more danger because of that. Like if he didn't leave, maybe nothing would have happened in the next 60 years.
Right.
And she would have just been on guard duty. Like.
Yeah. He's clearly has not thought this through.
Yeah.
But and then we get this possibly kind of the key moment in the issue in terms of talking about Iron Fist's leaving and particularly Wu Ao-Shi's influence on women in Kun Lun. I mean, obviously not her fault, but the idea that she was the reason that women couldn't be Iron Fists after this. I don't know if we want to go into a little more detail.
Well, I mean, I like how we get the tree again, drawn in a very similar way to that Marvel Premiere 16.
Yeah, I love that.
So, do you think this is the reason that women are treated the way they are in Kun Lun?
Well, it's interesting because we have this scene, and then at the very end of the issue, it says, okay, let me get the exact wording.
It just says she was the last woman ever to carry the mantle of Iron Fist. I don't know if that really directly implies that.
Yeah, and it says that the whys and wherefores of that tale are a story for another day, which suggests that it hasn't been explained in this issue. But then we get this scene where she asks to leave, and we're told, and I think this is important as well, that it was well within her rights to leave. It was law. It was allowed. It was her choice. So this is a thing, and we'll get back to that when we talk about this in general. But that it's not like Iron Fists can't go anywhere. It's within their right.
Leave.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they can do that. That's normal. But very specifically, the fact that she's leaving for love annoys UT. And he seems to take it in a very sexist way, where, well, she's leaving for love because she's a woman, therefore. And it's really interesting that okay, so we can accept that the UT is a sexist jerk.
Yeah.
And he would use this really weak excuse to say, okay, no more female Iron Fists.
I think he's genuinely annoyed, as in, like,
yeah.
I don't think this needs to be merely the excuse. I think this is plenty of reason for him to do it. He thinks it's probably really stupid, and to be fair, it is stupid.
Yeah.
But, like,
I mean, it is
not for the same reasons. It's more the fisherman's fault than anything.
Yeah. But it's interesting that if we imagine that he then goes, okay, no more women, and we can look at it. It's interesting that I think particularly in terms of looking at, I mean, the Dragon Kings aren't mentioned in this, but Li Kung, you would think, obviously he would not agree with that, you would think, but I guess kind of looking at power dynamics where he's not possibly able to say, hey, that's actually kind of ridiculous, and he just goes with.
That goes all the way back to, like, you know, the original run of Power Man and Iron Fist. Is like just doesn't quite have the sway to affect actual change until, you know, we get to Immortal Iron Fist, where he's sort of been building up this rebellion and training Sparrow and all these women. Yeah. So this kind of indirectly implies that.
But yeah, it's. I don't quite know what to make of it, because this is implied to be the reason, but then we're told at the end that it isn't the reason. So I guess that's just kind of, hopefully future writers will cover it.
Yeah, I didn't get that read personally, that this was maybe this was the reason there was no future women in Iron Fist, but I didn't really take that as the reason that women weren't trained at all.
I kind of assumed those two things were connected. That this is a very clear, easy way to make sure no woman becomes Iron Fist. They just are not allowed to fight at all. But yeah, we don't know.
Well, you know, Daddy thought of that with Pei. Oh, wait, never mind. I guess that didn't happen, did it?
Right.
So,
yep.
Anyway, moving on to another mind-baffling thing. But anyway, so yeah, she leaves. You know, and she sort of becomes like this wandering wuxia, I think is how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
And like she gets paid as well. She beats people up for money, and like she's got a cool outfit and stuff. And
and I like that too, because she's she's kind of a hero for hire. I
was gonna say that. That reminded me. This read is the only time I kind of picked that up. I'm like, oh, she's a hero for hire, like.
Yeah.
And I picked that up when she was eating the food, and they're there's these pirate tyrants, and her thought bubble's just like money.
$. I love that panel.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite panels in the issue. It's great.
Because where this idiot fisherman's living, the pirates raid, and she hears about the pirate raid, and she's like, oh yeah, I could make a lot of money, beat up some pirates.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
So she goes off, infiltrates, and gets beaten up.
I like this quote that we get from Lessons of the Tactical Warrior by Li Kung: "Never awaken a sleeping pirate and his boudoir army of fallen women."
Yeah, it's like very specific.
Yeah. Thanks, Li Kung.
It's like, where did Li Kung get all his worldly wisdom anyway? Like,
yeah. I love it.
I mean, that's a character we never really got the full backstory of, because he's been around for like thousands of years.
I would love an origin issue for him. Just
an origin series, please.
Oh yeah. I mean, the more the better. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
So she gets chained up to like starve to death and let the vultures eat a pirate thing, and the fisherman finds out because his ring glows and he sees her being led through town, so he feeds the guards poisoned fish.
Yeah, that's kind of nice. He gets kind of a nice little he gets to do something.
Yeah. So actually, he rescues her. He's not completely useless, but he's like, promise me you won't come back. And she's like, yep, I promise, and she leaves, and then 15 minutes later he's like, I bet she lied to me in a funny little sequence.
I love that, yeah.
Because she does come back for revenge.
Right.
I mean, yeah, she sort of just comes in on a boat with her, like, chi bow and sort of just hops from boat to boat.
Yeah, it's so cool. This whole sequence is really cool.
Yeah.
It's very, I love, I mean, it's not a gory issue or anything, but I love how they lean into the violence. Even little things like in the fight with the harem where she shoves her thumb in one of their eyes. I like how this issue, and when she's shooting the pirates on the boats and you can see them burning down to skeletons. I love the take that this issue has on the violence, where they kind of lean into the gore a little bit. That's really fun.
So I did really like when the Pirate Lord is like, pirate harem.
Yes.
They're like a super team.
Right. Yeah.
And, but yeah, you know, she beats up the fleet, they get reunited, then they get back together, because they realise, or more he realises, you know, you can't live without fighting, like, can't live without fish.
Yeah. This is nice.
It's like Lois complaining when, like, Superman's not home enough.
Yeah.
Which is a thing that happens in Superman and Lois. You know, she complains, it's like, what did you think? You know,
right.
This chick was training to be Iron Fist.
Yeah.
But I really like that final panel where, like, him and her are standing with, like, their kids around.
Yeah, it's a nice panel. Yeah.
It's nice to know, like she has a lineage, assuming the line didn't die out.
Yeah.
And, but, like, and it mentions that the rest of their days, which was sadly not long, so they must have died young.
Well, I mean, she would have died at 33, so we know that.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, and then who knows how long? I mean,
Rip.
You know, who knows how long he died? Yeah, really. But yeah, I mean, even without that, I like the fact, just the idea of Iron Fists dying young is the thing, just through it being a violent job anyway.
Yeah,
and like that's an important thing.
And yeah, they made it pretty clear that Orson, I think, was the exception.
Yeah.
And that guy who was writing the book, right?
Yeah.
He gave his Iron Fist powers back after a while, I think, and didn't die. Was that thing?
Yeah, I've forgotten that.
Yeah, that's him writing right now, I think.
I think so. Yeah, I never made that connection, but I think you're right. It does look like him.
Yeah. So, you know, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's a nice little story. Just my takeaway from it, especially when I first read it, was like, that was cool, but she didn't do anything for, like, Kun Lun. Like, she had no role as an Iron Fist in Kun Lun. Like, she left and was like a kind of folk hero, I guess. Yeah. Like, you know, which were, you know, the superheroes back then. And that's cool, but yeah, I remember my initial takeaway being like, oh, like all the other Iron Fists we see, it was just very different. Like, it was just a romance, she never went back, and she didn't, I don't know. But, I mean... Yeah,
it's not clear. I mean, we see her in that last panel, and she's wearing kind of an Iron Fist uniform.
Yeah.
So she's clearly still embodying that. But yeah, it's a really interesting look at an Iron Fist who just seems to kind of leave permanently.
I mean, realistically...
Not of most of the others.
In fact, realistically, she was of more use out here. You know, saving these people from these pirates and stuff. But, yeah, that was just my initial thing, was just, for an Iron Fist, it didn't seem to be such a great destiny, you know? But, I've learned to appreciate it since then. It's just when they said, issue 1 or 2 of the new series in the May or whatever is like, Wu Ao-Shi? She was such a great Iron Fist. And I was just thinking, why?
Yeah.
Like,
not really.
I mean, like, she's cool, but in the list of Iron Fist's deeds and accomplishments, she didn't do anything.
Yeah, and it is interesting that I mean, maybe it's I think it's May who says it, and maybe it's because kind of she's a great female role model for women in Kun Lun, because they don't have many. But it is interesting to look at her versus, say, Orson, who is kind of hated in Kun Lun. And obviously he left in a more kind of publicly embarrassing way, but and she just kind of, maybe the people in Kun Lun in general don't know what her reasons were for leaving and not coming back.
Because I was going to say, is May like
interesting comparison?
Is May like those fans who, sorry, I don't know which way it's pronounced, but is she like those fans of Wu Ao-Shi who just think she looks cool but don't know that of her story?
I mean, it's possible. Yeah, it's. I mean, and that's another kind of Iron Fist topic is what the general population in Kun Lun knows. I mean, there have been things of Danny not knowing much about previous Iron Fists. So is that just kind of a normal thing that you know, the higher ups have the history and then everyone else just kind of gets the vague details about these people?
I think Danny knows about her, right? I'm assuming he knows about all of these people that we see except for Future Boy, because he's.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's that kind of point where the previous continuity hits the Immortal Iron Fist continuity, right? Because presumably he would know about these people.
I mean, he knows
then
now.
He has
not
to
so
learn
much.
about them for the first time.
Yeah.
Because they're introduced in this series and they didn't exist. But yeah.
Yeah, so that's the issue. It's a good issue, and that's our launch off for the sort of discussion point of leaving Kun Lun. So obviously, the obvious comparison is Danny leaving Kun Lun, right? But there's so many things going on. Is like UT kind of wants him out of Kun Lun, so that because UT didn't get mad at him when he left, he was just kind of disappointed. But then it turns out UT's a jerk. Who's worshipping some blood god called Master Khan, and he's like kind of wants Danny outside of Kun Lun. And that's the whole thing. But then there's the other thing of like, nearly every Iron Fist we see leaves Kun Lun. Yeah.
And I was looking at, because Bei Bang Wen leaves, and I was looking
the Opium Wars, I think.
Yeah, I mean, most of them actually leave to fight in some kind of war on Earth. That seems to be a general theme for a lot of them.
There was the Mongolian Raiders.
Yeah.
So it's like.
And then I was looking at Lee Park, and we can kind of look at the because that's I never know how to pronounce his name, but the second writer on Immortal Iron Fist. So we have Brubaker and Fraction, who wrote the Wu Ao-Shi issue, but anyway, we have Lee Park's issue, where it's kind of implied that it's expected for him to leave.
Yeah.
That it's where is this that Lei Kung, or whoever the Thunderous, I assume it's Lei Kung, shows up and says that your immortal weapon, this is what you must do to fulfill your destiny. You need to go to Earth and handle this war. So there's this implication that it's kind of part of the job is to leave, which is an implication that I really actually like. I think it's interesting, the idea. I mean, it makes sense to me in the idea that Kun Lun it's very kind of contained.
Yeah.
And you can only, if you're going to be a great warrior, you can get, the best training you could possibly get there, but you're not going to get a ton of, I would think, kind of practical experience.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Going to Earth is kind of part of the training in that it gets you out there and it gets you into situations and you learn that way as well, which it's not directly stated, but...
It could be that. Another thing I was thinking it might be was, like, these wars are something that Kun Lun has a vested interest in, whether it's political, they want it to go a certain way.
Interesting.
Or maybe they don't want Mongolians running rampant over these Chinese villages for a certain reason, because maybe it's near Kun Lun, or maybe they just, you know, they're linked somehow, descendants or something, or the Opium Wars, they don't want, you know, the English to do too well. Same with World War One. Or it could be what you said, experience. The thing is, we never get an answer.
Yeah.
And it always kind of irked me that they never gave us an answer.
Yeah, it's one of those things where there's so much. I mean, we get so much cool world building for Kun Lun, which makes it. It's one of the reasons that it's one of my favorite Marvel settings. It's just such a cool place. But yeah, there's so much that it's kind of, we get hints of things and little kind of suggestions of world building that we just have to wait and hope that someday a writer will do more with, because there's a lot more potential there than what we actually have on the page.
Yeah. I wish Brisson kept going.
Yes.
Because he was tying stuff up.
Yeah. God damn it.
You know? So, yeah, it's interesting because when you read the original issues with Danny, you get the impression is like, so before this run, or before that wacky 90s series where it was multiple Iron Fists introduced, like, you know, Danny was the first. He was, you know, this has never happened, this is crazy. And you got the impression that it was expected that he would stay.
Yeah.
So him leaving was a bit of an upset. And then it just turns out that's kind of normal, but then Kerry Andrews kind of brings it back to Marvel Premiere and does the whole thing, which is kind of, I think, what the original series was sort of saying, is like, you know, the Iron Fist duty is to Kun Lun and Danny left. And
see, I never really... I think there is part of that, but I think I never got the impression that it was some horrible, shocking thing that he left, because when he has this conversation with the UT about not eating the fruit of the tree of immortality, and how the UT had hoped that Danny might have overcome his need for revenge, but it's and I think in which was it? It's Power Man Iron Fist Volume 2, the one with Vic, Danny talks a little bit about a fight that he had with Lei Kung before he left. So there's this idea that obviously people don't want him to leave because he's leaving for this reason that implies that he's still kind of damaged and hurting. But there's no great effort to prevent him from leaving. It's kind of, well, if you have to do this, I guess you have to do this. I don't think you should do this, but, you know, go ahead. Do what you need to do. So there's this idea that it's not some horrible disaster that he's leaving. It's more kind of for his own personal well-being, is the impression that I've got. That it's
I mean, even
unfortunate.
Even back then, though, he was called, like, well, I think anyway, he was called the champion of Kun Lun, right?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
That was something that actually Brisson cleared up, something that was a plot hole from that, which is, okay, you have all these Iron Fists leaving, if they can't get back into Kun Lun for 10 years. And then one of my favorite things that Brisson did was that he... in one of the early issues, it's the last issue of the first story arc with the Kung Fu tournament. Yeah. Where it's brought up that there's a technique in the Book of the Iron Fist that lets them just go back to Kun Lun whenever.
Yes. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, I love that because it explains a lot, and obviously the Book of the Iron Fist didn't exist in these early issues. No. So there's that. But if we kind of apply that backward, obviously not to Danny because he didn't have it, so there's still kind of a little, it doesn't quite work there.
Someone ran off with
it. But the idea in general of Iron Fists leaving, that makes it kind of even more of that kind of emphasized the idea that this is something that they could do and that it wouldn't be the end of the world as long as they were coming back.
Well,
I think that's the big point.
The thing that, so I was trying to figure out who wrote that part of the book, and I couldn't. I looked up. I went through Brisson's run. I'm like, which Iron Fist discovered the teleportation thing or came up with it? Because I would assume that it wasn't always there. Cause...
I don't know. I mean, it seems like it would be such a vital, because we know that the first Iron Fist did leave. Bei Ming Tian. We know that he did leave, but
didn't he leave in the sense that he got sent to the 8th City and basically got trapped there?
Well, but there's the fight he has against the Mongolian hordes. I assume.
Wait, is that him?
On Earth?
I didn't know that was him.
Yeah, it is. It's. You're making me second guess myself now. Let me double check. But I'm 90% sure that is him.
Right. I'm gonna check as well. Bei Ming Tian. He seems too late to be the first Iron Fist. 1227 AD, and there's 66 of them.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, there could be 66 of them between then and now. It depends on, especially if they're all dying at 33.
It's not him, though. I just looked it up. But he did kill Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
In awesome. Invincible Iron Man Annual 1, so that's pretty funny. Like,
yeah. Great. I love that.
Yeah, I think it's just a problem because there's a couple of times where, I think in Power Man and Iron Fist where Lei Kun's like, Danny, you're the protector of Kun Lun.
Yeah.
So I guess it just kind of comes down to what the writer assumes. Like, I mean, I always assumed if it got dire enough, like, in Immortal Iron Fist, they just pulled him in for the tournament. Like, I assumed if it was that dire, they could just grab their Iron Fist.
Yeah, you would think. But you think they have to, yeah.
Then Kun Lun got trashed in Living Weapon.
Right, yeah. There's no consistency there. Which is, I've always found a little bit frustrating, because one thing I would like to see a lot more is, Danny actually being the Iron Fist in Kun Lun. I want more of that.
And Living Weapon's my favorite, but it, it did play a bit fast and loose with some aspects of the continuity, like Sparrow.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, the idea is definitely there that like now that an Iron Fist needs to protect Kun Lun. But it's just such a hot mess. It really is. Like,
yeah. And I mean, the frustrating thing is when it does seem to kind of reflect poorly on Danny when it shouldn't. This is sloppy world building. He does care about Kun Lun. It's not like he's being super negligent and just ignoring them. It's just the continuity is so weird that.
I mean, he basically said screw him in his own series pretty early on when he found out UT was like trying to kill him and kidnapping Colleen.
Well, yeah, there was that, but I mean, before that, he talks with a lot of fondness about Kun Lun, and recently. I mean, his feelings on Kun Lun are complicated, and I like that because Kun Lun is a complicated place.
Well, yeah, he still loves Lei Kun. Like, even in Power Man and Iron Fist, like, he still liked him. It was...
But I think it's more than that, because he if we look at early issues, he does miss, when he's on Earth, he does miss Kun Lun, and the implication is that he wants to go back, and then, recently, I mean, his feelings on it are complicated, but even, I mean, just sticking with Immortal Iron Fist, when he comes back for the tournament and he's kind of marveling at being back, and so I don't think his complicated feelings or otherwise, I don't think if they needed help he would say, well, forget you, deal with it, you're on your own. He would, I think. I mean, because when Kun Lun is in danger and he's aware of it, like in Brisson's run, he is very, very, worried, and so I think even if he's not the most attentive Iron Fist, I do think that he wants to be doing that part of the job.
Well, I mean,
if he can.
he has the best and worst track record as an Iron
Yeah.
Fist. Because
Yeah.
Kun Lun got destroyed under his watch, but at the same time, he saved Kun Lun at least twice. So
Yeah.
at least twice. The things off the top of my head is at the end of Brisson's run, when he saves it from that guy's invading army, and then when he stops the bullet train from blowing it up.
Yeah.
And there's probably other points he saved it that I'm not thinking of. But, yeah, so I mean, I guess you save it multiple times versus it being destroyed once. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's the only time it got destroyed, so... Although that...
I mean, as far as we know, I don't know. I feel like the frequency with which Kun Lun gets attacked has gotten attacked over the course of Danny's time as the Iron Fist makes me wonder, that
was never his fault.
Was that really the first time?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, just thinking logically, particularly, we get little hints in the early Iron Fist series about stuff with the Hilthri, the plant people, that they are kind of at war and have been at war with Kun Lun, and there have been issues there since before Danny was there.
Oh, how disappointing was Contagion? That started off so good.
Yeah.
And
I wanted more out of that.
He should have just made it an Iron Fist event.
Really? Yeah, I didn't quite get what the thinking was there.
Because it sort of just went off the rails in the last two issues and focused on newly introduced characters, and it was weird.
Yeah.
But anyway, the Hyalithian, they're always causing trouble. And, they used the hand of that Iron Fist. It was the shortest-lived Iron Fist because he got killed by the Hyalithi.
Right. I want to know that story, that really short story.
Yeah, there really is just so much potential with Kun Lun and the different stories you could tell, and they just... we had a really good run, but then Heart of the Dragon happened, and since then it's just been like... And there's also been crappy stuff like Avengers vs. X-Men.
That was weird.
That was crummy as hell, and then there was... what was that other one that did it really badly? I don't know, I can't remember now. But
it's been really mixed bag. I would love, and it's so frustrating because in the current series we are getting stuff about Kun Lun. We're getting a series that I've wanted for quite a long time just to have an Iron Fist run that is set firmly in Kun Lun the entire time. And we're kind of getting that here, but we're not getting it with Danny. It kills me a little bit.
It doesn't even make much sense so far either.
No, it doesn't.
So
it really doesn't. We're just swapping someone who was adopted into the society with someone who has no knowledge of it whatsoever.
Yeah, and this is just not the right time to replace Danny.
No, it really isn't.
Because, as I've said a million times, because where we ended on Brisson's run, we were primed to continue those avenues further.
Yeah. He set up so much stuff. It was so good. I was so excited. I was waiting for Miranda to come back for years, and she finally came back, and now she's gone again.
Yeah.
There was so much stuff that could have been continued from that run that just wasn't.
Yeah, we just... again, I've mentioned it heaps, but Danny being the champion of Kun Lun, now he's finally able to go back and forth between them.
Yeah.
He's finally embraced his role as their protector, and then that was his last story, basically.
Yeah, oh god, it's so frustrating.
And again, it's obviously the higher-ups that were making this push.
Yeah.
I really wanted a continuation of that, and as you said, we got Miranda back. I wanted a continuation of that. And this is just not the right time. Like, it's... Marvel, Disney, or whatever they want, because of the live-action trial, I'm assuming they wanted a new Iron Fist, but again, stop with that synergy bullshit, and
I don't
like...
even know if they do. I mean, I have a hard time imagining Lin Lee showing up in the MCU. I mean, I don't... It's hard to know what they're going for.
It's just... Yeah, I don't know. I'm always going to be annoyed about it, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just.
I'm reserving. I'm waiting to see what Danny's story arc is in this in this comic. Hopefully, I mean, I'm keeping my expectations really low, but with his 50th anniversary coming up soon, I'm hoping we'll get something.
That's the other thing,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit bewildering. Like, the current series isn't the worst thing ever, but it's
disappointing. It's not what we wanted.
Yeah. They're not. I guess we're 2 issues in out of 4 or 5.
I think it's 5. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess there's still time. Danny will probably be in it more as it goes along, but as I've said before, it's like the damage has kind of been done, and you have to have this new Iron Fist, which for whatever reason is Swordmaster, and we're focusing. We can't really focus on purely Iron Fist stuff because we got all this baggage with him.
Right, yeah.
And his own mythos that's...
Yeah, I feel like I'm being neglectful not reading the Swordmaster stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm not super interested. I don't know. But yeah, it's frustrating that we then have to... I do feel like I'm missing things by not having that background.
I'm missing Danny.
I mean, yes. Most importantly.
Yeah. I mean, there's things like... I'd like Danny to be the Thunderer. I think that would be really cool.
That would be awesome. Yeah, I would love that. I love when he trains people. I think that would be the perfect thing for him at this point. If we could have him as the Iron Fist, that would be... And
he, he can come back as the Iron Fist later or whatever if they make up their minds, but like,
there.
Give him a stint as the Thunderer, because from what we've seen of Mentor Danny, I really like it, and we haven't seen much of it, and I want him and Sparrow to hook up. I want them to have babies, and I want... Sorry, Misty Knight fans.
No, I respect that. I like both of them. But yeah, it would be, and just to have him. I mean, obviously I hate that he gave his powers away. There are a million problems with that. But
let's not
I
get
do
into
like
that.
the idea of But I do like the idea of Danny just kind of hanging out, just kind of not taking a break, but just taking a minute to just not be out there superheroing all the time. And I think being the Thunderer would be the perfect thing. And yeah, as you mentioned, it's really cool to see him as a teacher.
Yeah.
And it also seems to be, it fits his character really well. And it's been established that it's something he really enjoys. Like we see him with the Thunder Dojo, and we see him with Vic, and we saw him with Pei, that it's something that he loves to do. And so yeah, there's a lot of logic there. It would be, I'm not getting my hopes up, but it would be so cool to have him.
He's also
as the Thunderer.
Less likely to be a jobber if he's the Thunderer. Like, he's less likely to... Yeah. Do you know what a jobber is?
I don't. I think I can guess, but
so a jobber is basically you take someone who's well established as... we'll use fighting for instance. You take someone who's really well established as a great fighter, and then you make him lose to make the other person look good or make it seem like an unexpected plot twist.
Okay.
And that happens to Danny a lot. It's like, Danny's the Iron Fist, he's a great fighter, let's have him lose to Jessica Drew on drugs, or Moon Knight or something, to like show how unusual this is. But now it's become usual because he loses so much.
Yeah.
But if he's the Thunderer, then he's not going to be losing as much.
There we go. Perfect. Awesome. Yeah. And I mean, I guess another part of that is kind of going back to something we talked about earlier and getting into more Kun Lun world building. And now I'm getting too excited about this now. I need to take my expectations back down. But
you need to take some Valiant.
But it would be a really cool way to look more into the power dynamic within Kun Lun and the higher ups, with the Sparrow being the UT and Danny being the Thunderer, and seeing how kind of the politics side, which it was not something that I would generally say I'm super interested in, but in this case I think it could be really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I was really interested. We got a tiny bit of this in Brisson's run, and I loved it, and I've thought about it ever since. But we had that little moment during the invasion of Kun Lun where Danny and Sparrow are there, and Danny's trying to do something, and she's giving him orders, and she's going, "Hey, Iron Fist, I'm your boss. Do this." And I thought that was really interesting because we've never really seen that before. Because Danny we've had so few story arcs of Danny being the Iron Fist in Kun Lun that we haven't really got a sense of that power structure.
There's actual pain in my chest from thinking about like just the potential that was cut short violently.
Yeah.
You know.
So frustrating. Yeah, it hurts.
Yeah. So why don't we circle back a bit? This is going down into the spiral of despair and wishful thinking.
Yes. Please.
Back to Iron Fist leaving Kun Lun. So we've established it's a mess, but they all did it. Yeah. And the reason that Wu Ao-Shi's leaving was a problem was because of the reason. And UT being a jerk. Yeah, it's again, I think it's kind of that he was probably looking for a reason, because it's such a weak, if that is the reason that, she left for love, it's such a weak reason. I mean, because men fall in love too, at the very least. So why would that, I could see that being a reason why he'd say, okay, Wu Ao-Shi is, no, we don't like Wu Ao-Shi anymore, but applying it to an entire gender it's a little, it's extreme, certainly. Yeah. I want, like, the 5 Doctors, but with Iron Fists. So we have, like, Danny meets up with, let's put Wu Ao-Shi in there, Orson Randall. I mean, you only need the 3 Iron Fists, really. Like, that would be amazing, as it is. Yeah. But then we can choose 2 more. Maybe, like, the first Iron Fist, not the K-Woman.
Yeah.
That would be so cool.
Then, and then I would want Lee Park in there, because he's always really fun.
So which one was he?
He's the pacifist one who only got to fight Xiao because everyone else was sick. He's the creative one. I love him.
He was he would have to be in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really cool story, actually.
That was so. I love the really. I mean, Beibang Wen too. The ones that get really creative with the powers.
Yeah.
I think the mental aspect of the powers is really neat. I love that that's a thing.
Yeah.
Because you don't expect it, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, that would be good. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess you've kind of answered our question as well as we could.
Anyway. Yeah, we've had a discussion, and I would be very curious to hear other people's thoughts if they write in, because it's such a big topic, and the continuity again is all over the place, so it really is up to interpretation.
Yeah, we can't provide a definitive answer, but the idea is, like, if we use our headcanon, like your headcanon of that's them getting more training, or mine of Kun Lun having stakes in these wars and stuff, maybe both. Like, you can make really interesting stories out of that. Yeah. But if we just look at what we get on the page, like, we do have to make those leaps. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it's just kind of sitting there. And it's interesting. It's like writers come into Iron Fist and they want to tell their own take on it, which says something about the character writers, that these, Ed Bruce and Kerry Andrews and stuff, like, they have I want to tell this Iron Fist story because I already love the character and I want to see, but these different takes kind of clash with each other and stuff, but it's still kind of cool. Some ways I appreciate that. I mean, it's frustrating from a continuity perspective, but it's neat from a storytelling. Seeing a bunch of different types of stories and people being unafraid to put their own spin on the character, which can be really, really neat. I guess they got away with it because they were so good.
Yeah.
Like even Phantom Limb. I loved Phantom Limb.
Yeah, that was neat.
That's like
I want more horror Iron Fist stories.
That's gotten to like top 5 Iron Fist stories for me. Like, I love it that much. I think at the time I was kind of so on it, but it's definitely grown on me as I've reread it. It's just so unique. And creepy.
I love it.
Yeah. For anyone who hasn't, you should check out our 100th episode where I get to interview Mr. Chapman. That was a lot of fun. He was also very honest as well, like just about his process and stuff. So that was cool.
Awesome.
For instance, he didn't know that Davos lost a hand in Immortal Iron Fist.
Oh, interesting.
Because he said basically, Marvel gave him a bunch of Iron Fist comics to read before writing that. And I don't know what those comics were because he forgot. But yeah, so I'd be interested to know what Marvel gave him at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Because funnily enough, his solution was the same as Davos's.
Yeah.
Chi hand. So, it kind of worked out.
Yeah, I just assumed it was a callback.
yeah, no, me too. But yeah, well, we've had about an hour here. Some good discussion.
Yeah, we've gotten into a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And do you live next to a street, by the way?
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you hearing noises? I hoped it wasn't too loud.
No, it's fine. I just thought it was funny because some of them were like really weird, and I was just wondering what they were.
Yeah, it's my location has moved. I'm in a slightly noisier place now, and there's I am on a street. There's also I don't know if you I'm right next to a fire station, so sometimes really weird noises come out of there.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what that is.
No, that's fine. It's fine. Insert Hell's Kitchen joke.
Yes, exactly.
So, yeah. No, this is a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is great.
Be keen to do it again. It'll pop up at some point, I'm sure. We can talk about Daredevil and Iron Fist.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and then I thought, you know what, I'm not going to drag Daredevil into this today. But yeah, I'm happy to talk about... I love their team-ups. They're always fun. So I'm happy to talk about that.
You posted something. Is it Miller, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I remember you posted something about her, and I was going to type a response, and the response basically just would have been like, "I don't like her," and then I'm like, I can't make it work on Twitter, but I found it interesting because you said she was your favorite, right?
Well, she's one of my favorites. I don't really have. Yeah, I don't really have favorites. I think I focus on her because I do like her a lot. And it's, again, of frustrating things not getting continued, but that she's still alive, which for a Daredevil love interest is pretty unique.
Yeah, it's like her and Black Widow and Echo.
Right,
that's probably about it.
She's a civilian who's still alive.
Yes.
But she's we haven't seen her for 10 years, and so it's just that kind of I get not liking her. I know a lot of other people don't like her, but I think it would be cool if we saw more of her because she is still alive, and her story was cut short really abruptly.
I liked her better than the Mark Waid person.
Oh, interesting.
I really didn't like her.
Interesting.
Because you're looking at Daredevil's love interest, right? You've got some pretty tough competition.
Yeah, yeah.
It's Heather's iconic,
Yes.
Love her or hate her.
Yes. Yeah, she's I love her. But there are so many of them, and they're all so different, and that's a topic for a completely other conversation. Is. But yeah, so that's I was posting about Milla. It's Milla Donovan for anyone familiar. On the 4th because it's in universe. It's her and Matt Murdock's wedding anniversary, which coincidentally, not coincidentally, but it's also Brian Michael Bendis and his wife's wedding anniversary, and Alex Maleev and his wife's wedding anniversary, and that's the creative team that introduced her. So it's a whole thing. Anyway, so I picked that day as kind of a day when I talk about her, just to hype her up a little bit and celebrate what we got of her, and with the hopes that someday she might come back.
Oh, look, I may not be a fan,
but you don't have to like her. It's completely cool.
No, it's awesome that you represent these people, like Mike Murdock as well, who's like polarizing, I guess. But it's cool. I like seeing different takes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always thought it was weird. I always just thought that the fact she was also blind was a bit on the nose for me. But yeah, I don't know. It's been like 15 years since I've read that run. So
yeah.
if I read it again now, I will definitely have a different take on it.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's kind of how I've felt too, in a way, is just going back and revisiting her issues rereading these issues of Iron Fist, you always get something new, which is I love so much about reading anything, but reading superhero comics in general, is that there's just so much in them that you can get through rereading.
I read Immortal Iron Fist and Living Weapon last year for the first time in a while, and that was really cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, we'll wrap up.
Right.
But we'll be back next time. Not sure who'll be here for Iron Fist 3, and we'll definitely have you on, Emma, for Heroes for Hire 8 and 9.
Excellent. Can't wait.
Whenever that happens. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Let us know, did you enjoy this sort of free-form chat about aspects of Iron Fist and continuity, because there's a whole bunch of these we could probably do. So let us know. And until next time, may your wedding rings be unto a thing of iron. Peace.
Bye.
Before we go, Emma, do you want to promote your blog?
Oh, yeah, sure,
forgot.
thank you. No, that's fine. So I'm on Tumblr, and I have an Iron Fist blog on Tumblr called Book of the Iron Fist. So it's bookoftheironfist.tumblr.com.
Yeah, and your Daredevil one, right?
And yes, and I also have a Daredevil one called Daresplaining, so daresplaining.tumblr.com.
All right, awesome. Bye for real this time.
All right, bye.
See yous. Iron Fist and all other characters in these comics are properties of Marvel and Disney. Any music or images we use belong to their respective copyright holders. We do this for fun, so please don't sue us. You can contact us at sonsofthedragonpodcast@gmail.com. Just send us mail, comments, thoughts, anything you want, really. It doesn't even have to be related to Iron Fist. If you don't want it read on the air though, make sure you mention that. You can also find us on Facebook, the Immortal Iron Fist Podcast, Sons of the Dragon, our Twitter, @Iron Fist Podcast, our SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/Sons of the Dragon, hyphens where the spaces are, our YouTube, Connor Carl, just search Iron Fist Podcast and you'll find us real quick. We are also on iTunes. If you find us there, give us a review and rate us. If it's less than 5 stars, please say why so we can improve the show. And we're on Podcast Garden in the literature section, and last but not least, head over to our WordPress, Sons of the Dragon, the Immortal Iron Fist Podcast.wordpress.com. That's where I put all the show notes. I'd like to thank Thomas Tissot for composing the Iron Fist theme song we use at the start of our Iron Fist episodes on the podcast. I'd also like to thank Peter John Sikorsky for composing the Power Man and Iron Fist theme we use at the start of our Power Man and Iron Fist episodes. And finally, thanks to you guys for listening.